Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Manga and Anime Club with Brandon from the Tenley Friendship Library. My name is Joanna Harris, and I am the Teen Services Coordinator. So today's presentation, Brandon, it's going to be on the Japanese education system, right?
Yes, Japanese education, the good, the bad, and the ijime.
Ooh. Gotcha. What's ishime? Are you going to get into that?
It basically translates to ugly, like the phrase and everything. I'll get into that in a little bit.
Gotcha. Cool.
But to take it away. Okay. So, Joanna, what are some of the things you think you know about Japanese school from anime and manga? And if there's anybody in chat, please contribute too.
Yes. I'll keep an eye on the chat. But I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is the sailor uniforms, right? Like Sailor Moon, but also like every other anime, they're in that sailor style uniform. And then I feel like they all anime schools have like a building with like a clock in the front, like a big clock in the front, and the protagonist is running in their uniform, eating a piece of toast, with a piece of toast in their mouth as they run late for class. I feel like that's the beginning of a lot of different animes. And that's probably the beginning and ending of my knowledge. Other than their school year is different, like they start school in March or something. Because
we're gonna get
a lot of times.
We're gonna get into a lot of that and everything.
Cool.
Now, how about some of the basics of what happens in American school?
For sure. I went through the whole American school system, so I feel like I have, a few pointers, at least from a few years ago. So where we have the summers off, so June through August for most schools, definitely most public schools. And yeah, public schools don't have uniforms. Some private schools have uniforms. So we have the public-private system, and it's, different depending on what kind of school you're going to. And yeah, like some of the basics too is, what is it? In high school, you switch between classes. In middle school, you switch between classes. And in elementary school, you stay with one teacher throughout the entire class. I guess that would cover most of the basics if I were to explain it to an outsider.
You definitely got most of the basics there, and there are a lot of ways there are a lot of things that you touch on that are completely different in Japanese schools, basically because of some of the basis of that, the basics of what it is, and let's get into that right now. So a big overview of the two. American school system is basically individualized. That means that the focus is making the individual excel, like AP classes, everything like that. The grading system, 180 days a year, and curriculum is state by state and stuff. So each individual state has an overall curriculum that the school districts within have to follow and everything, but it's not the same throughout the entire country. And we usually are going a Monday through Friday format. In the Japanese school system, the emphasis is on the community, basically trying to make them not stand out, but be the most productive possible members of society. I know people get bullied a lot and stuff for standing out in various ways in American schools. But it can be even worse in Japan if there are different ways that you're standing out. Their school year can consist of up to 240 days a year, with part of that being cultural studies and field trips. So they do get up in more days overall, but a lot of it is extra trips. Their curriculum is nationally set by the country of Japan, so you can go to any school in Japan and be in whatever grade on any given day, and everybody in that same grade is learning the exact same things at the exact same time. That makes it difficult if you fall behind, but it also kind of ensures a uniformity. And they are like us Monday through Friday, but they have some schools having Saturday half days to help with academic excellence. Now, you already touched on this a little bit. When does the school year begin? For America, it starts in late August through September, runs through June, and we are usually divided up into a four quarter system. In Japan, the school year starts in April. Most Japanese businesses, their fiscal year is April 1st through March 31st of the next year and stuff. Like Nintendo, all the video game companies are ending this month and stuff, which is why all the Mario games are going away. I'm not going to get more into that. But yeah, like it starts in April, goes through March, and usually divided into 3 terms: a spring, fall, and winter term. In terms of school structure, the American system is elementary school, usually 6 years, sometimes 7, depending upon where you count kindergarten. If you're entering school for kindergarten at age 5. I know for my particular schooling and stuff in a very small suburban school, it was a K in 1 through 6. So it was 7 years for me. But here in DC, it's K through 5 from what I've been seeing, and then 6th and 7th grade, 6th through 8th grade are middle school, and then high school is 9th through 12th grade. And we are required by law to attend through the 2nd year of high school before you can decide high school's not for you and dropping out and stuff. Which stay in school, do not drop out. Japanese, it's a little bit different in some ways, of course. Elementary school is again 6 years. They're usually entering school a little bit later and stuff, 6 years old, although they do have preschool stuff and everything like there is in America for a lot of people as well. Secondary school is definitely 3 years of middle school and 3 years of high school. They are required to attend through middle school and then pass difficult entrance exams to get into the high school of their choice. Despite not being guaranteed, there is usually over 90% enrollment in high school by the Japanese populace. So not everybody attends, but a decent amount of people do attend.
Yeah, I remember, if I can interject, in Sailor Moon, there's an entire season where they're studying to get into high school. And I remember, I was in middle school at the time myself, and I was like, what? What are they doing? Is it the SATs? And that was the first time where I had to acknowledge, oh, this takes place in a different school system entirely.
Another good example of a manga anime that we have within the library system that people can see that kind of gives a good example of it is Assassination Classroom, which follows them throughout their 3rd year of middle school and everything, getting into their high schools, even though they're being taught by a giant yellow octopus monster. This graphic I have up here is kind of an example of some Japanese schools are going through a 2-semester system, a 2-semester 4-quarter like we have in the U.S. And some of the, but it also kind of compares it to that 3-semester system on the one below. I can't really point to it with my pointer without that big thing coming up. So I am not going to do that. I guess I'm just make it disappear. But basically, you can see at the beginning in April is when there are opening ceremonies, health checkups for students. Big school field trip starts is first in May. June is a sports day thing. July in the 3rd semester in the 3-semester system is when they start with their first finals. Then August is their summer break and extra stuff. Then they're back again September through December with middle school middle midterm tests for their 2nd semesters and school excursions in October. And then January through March is the last term and everything. And as you can see, it's a smaller term where the kids who are at the end of their middle school years will be doing all those high school stuff they need to do, getting into the high schools of their choice. school life. Some examples of stuff from America. Dress codes vary, with some schools having uniforms, but not all schools. There can be up to 30 students per class, maybe even sometimes more. And students have the option to participate in many different extracurricular activities, of course. And they are encouraged usually to participate in as many as possible to help pad a college resume and get into a good college. For Japan, it's very different. From middle school on, students have a winter and a summer uniform to wear. They aren't really allowed to do things like have artificial hair color or other individual expressions kind of stuff allowed, like piercings or tattoos or anything like that and stuff. Definitely frowned upon. Again, that ijime, don't stand out kind of mentality. There can be up to 40 students per class, and the students do have to participate in extracurricular activities, but they all have to pick at least one, and only one though and stuff. They're like only allowed into one. This is all due to the academic and excelling excellence that are in Japanese schools and stuff. Like do your best in school and stuff, and go on from there. So they'll usually have like the one big activity that they participate in that kind of ends up with, and it might be being defined around like a sports or whatever like that. Speaking of which, some kind of school clubs that you'll see in Japan, there are the sports kind of things like baseball and soccer and volleyball and track and field and swimming, but then we get into things like judo and kendo, swordsmanship clubs with practicing with those wooden bamboo swords and things like that. Then there's things like school band, school choir, drama, art, and literature clubs. There's Kado flower arrangements, Sado tea ceremony clubs, Shoto calligraphy clubs. I also don't have on here the student council is a kind of like one that oversees them all, does cultural festival stuff and everything, and it's kind of like the Uber club and everything. But it's like again, if you're in the student council, you're not participating in anything else. Now, in terms of break time, how long is the breaks that we have here in America? That you we have that big summer vacation break. How long does that usually last?
Like 2.5 months. And then we have like the little breaks, like spring break and like winter break, which is like a week or two.
Mm-hmm. Our usual stuff: 1 week of winter break, 1 week of spring break, and 12 weeks usually of summer vacation. And there's usually minimum homework that students have to do during the break. Maybe read some summer reading type books and stuff, but nothing huge. In Japan, as you can see, they do go throughout the entire year, and their overall calendar is bigger and stuff. Although there are those trips in between and everything. But their usual thing is to have 2 weeks of winter break, 2 weeks of spring break, and only 6 weeks of summer break. So much less in the summer than we are and everything. There are large workbooks of stuff they have to do during the break and turn in when they get back and stuff. So there's no kind of summer slide with them. What more interesting question about the American school system? Why do we have such a very long summer break?
I remember being told it was something to do with like in the olden days, like they would need kids to help them like on the farm. But I don't know if that's like an urban or a rural legend, as it were. I don't know if that's like made up.
Well, I did like look this up specifically for this and stuff, and that is the common misconception about needing the help for farming during the summer. But actually, like in terms of farm cycles and stuff, they're planting and harvesting during the spring and fall. That's when they need the most help and everything. The long summer breaks that we have came about because of how hot it got in urban areas with no air conditioning. Wealthy kids, who are usually the only ones who could afford to be in school before it became public education for all, and their parents went to cooler climates to vacation during hot summer months, which is why we have long summer breaks. At least that's the best I could find.
That makes more sense. That makes more sense than the farming story. I feel like that to be like a part of like nationwide culture would have been further back than our modern school system. So that interesting.
Okay. So one last thing about one more thing about schools systems to compare them. Who does what and why? In American school system, the money per student goes into academics, but also other services like the busing service to get them to the schools, janitorial services for the schools, cafeteria staff, secretaries in the school, things like that. There are many school employees, like I said, that take care of different activities and the school buses and drivers. In Japan, it's very different. Money per student is almost all entirely put to them for academics and stuff and getting the textbooks and stuff they need for that. So overall, it's a lot less. The students end up helping to clean their own classrooms and also serve as lunch staff when needed. At the end of the day, they're cleaning up the entire classroom, getting it ready so when they come back the next day. Part of the incentive is the fact that there's no big classroom isn't assigned to a single teacher and everything like it is in American schools. The teachers have their teacher lounge and work area and stuff, but they also in Japanese schools, but they are usually going between different classes to teach the classes versus the classes coming to them, as even in middle school and high school. And students also in a lot of places end up helping to serve lunches, as I mentioned and stuff, which really helps out with the whole cultural festival thing when they have to do that. There are schools also in almost all the different neighborhoods in Japan in various ways, so students can usually walk or bike there. In high schools, older students can live in school dorms or rent apartments for making an easier commute to school. So there's really no big busing system like we have here in America and stuff to get the kids to schools. They usually can get there and get back on their own because of how many there are and how easy it is to get to them, and how much they are all around and just all around and everything and stuff, and easy to get to. And that's the basics of like all the stuff I've got for comparing American education to Japanese education. Source-wise, you can see I did a lot of sites that talk about Japan and stuff and cited through them, especially education.jnt from the Japanese National Tourist Organization, the third one down. Ooh, sorry. Sorry, let me get back to there. School education thing about. Also in our library, the Confucius Lives Next Door got helped out a lot with about American author living in Japan and comparing the whole communal versus individualistic nature of the different cultures and stuff. It really helped out with that part of the presentation too. But that is pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Brandon. So if anybody has any questions for Brandon, can go ahead and put them in the chat. If you are watching this after the live stream, you can go ahead and email us at dcpl.programs@dc.gov if you have any questions that Brandon can answer later. But yeah, I also know that community thing is really interesting because I feel like that's a big part of Japanese culture in general. And another thing,
just Asian culture in general, I would say.
Yeah. And another thing I remember being told is that like Japanese schools are very much, it's like about like the class and like how well the class is doing. So it's almost like you're like a team.
Mm-hmm.
And, so if someone is like falling behind, like in the class, like, students almost get like angry. They're like, you're pulling our class behind. So I feel like that would be very stressful. It's bad enough, like, taking care of your own like individual standing, but then to also be letting down like a class full of people feels to me like it would be very, very stressful. I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
When I first started researching for this years and years ago and stuff and updating it now and stuff, I did find a lot of articles that dealt with like how the suicide rate for among Japanese students was high and everything because they could not deal with the pressure to excel and to conform for the class and everything and stuff. And I didn't find that much as this time around, so I kind of left it out and everything and stuff. But I would not be surprised if it's still a lot in it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like with every kind of school system, there's like the pros and the cons for sure. You mentioned that they don't have the summer slide, which is, a big thing. And they're talking now, since the pandemic, since the public health emergency, how there's almost been like a year-long slide because of the disconnect between those who have access to virtual learning and those who don't. But it's interesting, I do think it's like, some people are like, ugh, the idea of doing homework over the summer over break is like so painful. But, maybe they are onto something, to a little bit of a degree. I don't know how intensive those workbooks are, but, just a little something to like kind of keep your brain fresh so there's not so much of a learning curve. When you start a new year, like maybe not so bad. But I don't know. It's also been a long time since I've gone to school, so I feel like my perspective is the way skewed. Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you so much, Brandon. So Brandon, you're not going to be live streaming next month, but you'll have a video for us. Is that right?
Yeah, video quiz. The Manga Club next month that's taking place on April 5th is going to be about the Japanese holidays of Golden Week. And I'm adapting that into a quiz that you will be shared here as part of the normal family learning series of quizzes that take place during April. Nice. And I should also mention, if I've got time, I have what I'm going to do for May already set up, but June, July, and August is kind of up in the air for people to help and decide. If you go onto the DCLibrary.org website and go to the listing for the Manga Club, you'll find under June a vote here kind of thing that takes you to a survey I'm taking on SurveyMonkey between now and April 5th. Basically, I have 3 different topics to cover. They're magical girl anime and manga, Japanese mecha anime and manga, and what's called tokusatsu and Super Sentai, the special effects kind of shows that we get that basically are what footage is taken from to create for Power Rangers and are the kind of shows, those kind of shows here. Cool. So I'm going to be doing them over the summer and stuff. The one I'm going to do in June is the one that gets the most votes. Then July, then August, and so forth and stuff. If we're still doing these shows through then and stuff. Right now, Magical Girl anime is leading as of right now and everything. And now I'm sure Joanna is going to go onto the website and kind of skew it more. But if you want to do one of the other topics, let me know.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for plugging that, Brandon. And we will see you again in May. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.